I think what makes a garment a classic is when we can look back into the 20s and 30s and see these beautiful garments that are still on our famous women of today. And when I see those and see them stand the test of time, I certainly want at least a dozen of those in my closet. Hi, I'm Peggy Sagers. As a pattern maker, in the very beginning of learning to make patterns, I learned that there was 5 basic pieces. Those 5 basic pieces are the bodice front, the bodice back, the skirt front, the skirt back, and the sleeve. When we take all those pattern pieces and combine them together, we get what we have traditionally called the sheath dress. It is the most classic of all the styles, of all the patterns we have. Yet for a seamstress, it is the most difficult, or for any woman, it's the most difficult to go into a store and buy, because the height, the waist, the bust, the hips, all of those have to be exactly right on. But for the seamstress, it's got to be your best friend, and should be. So we're going to take a walk down and learn along all these sheath dresses on how we can take that one great classic, get it fitted, and then change it up to make it look so very many different ways. And we start, of course, with the little black dress. The little black dress doesn't have to be black. It's simply that it's one piece, no horizontals, and all verticals that really give it our best look. We can take a French curve and we can lay it on a neckline that we like, and we can see how that neckline falls, and then simply transfer that to the pattern that we're dealing with to create that same exact neckline. Just make sure that I use the numbers on the French curve to duplicate what I see, what I like, and then transfer it on and cut away, and that will give me the look I want. One thing I should always remember about this little black dress is how easily I can change it up, and how I can simply add a belt. And anytime I add a belt, keep in mind that it gives me a little shorter, heavier look because I'm creating a horizontal line. And I can add a little jacket, but that base just becomes a great one. I can add different jewelry and different necklaces. And the beauty about making it black is simply that it's unrecognizable as I change up the jewelry, the belts, and the jackets. Then as I move along, I can simply take a jacket off of my classic black and move it to a fabric that now has just a little more, maybe just a little more color to it, even though it's still very contemporary and still my little black dress. I can remove the belt, I can add some piping, and really give myself a much different look, but yet still fall within that classic sheath dress. Again, the sheath dress, because it's such a great look for us, we want to change out those fabrics. And just know that the more basic they are in color, the more versatile they'll be. When we go really crazy with a color, they'll be a little more recognizable. We will be tempted with those flash in the pants colors of fabrics that are bright, like so, and we can do a little sheath dress out of this, but recognize that once we make it, it's not really easy to change it up. So the reason that classic dress has become so popular is because the actual fabric and the body itself has been kept simple, while it's the accessories and the things that go on top of it that have made it unique and different for that moment. Let's move on now, because the sheath dress can be both woven or knit fabrics. I can do them out of either one. In this case, I've made this with a little sheath dress where part of the panels were black and part floral. The whole logic behind this is, as the sheath dress is those 5 basic pieces, the darts are moved up into the top, creating a princess seam. And as I move them and I create 2 pieces, when the side piece is done in black, you see that she really only looks a quarter of her body wide. So it's such a slimming look if we decide to do part of those panels in black and part of those panels in floral. When we make that out of a knit, now keep in mind that these are half scale patterns. These are not full scale, just because I wanted to show you the variance. When I make that panel in black and when I make it in a knit, I make the whole entire size just a little bit smaller, but that's not anything I have to do before I cut the fabric. I can simply cut the fabric out, put it on my body, and then decide how much smaller I want by simply taking it in while it's physically on my body. Nothing will change with the shaping or where the bust is or where the waist is, so it's not something I have to predetermine with my fabric. Moving along to the next one, again, this is a knit, and you can see how much fun we get with our knits today. Our stretch wovens, our knits, they're so versatile out there. And again, the shoulder angle, the armhole, nothing has changed. I've just simply added a little zipper treatment or any type of fun trim that I have. A lot of times when I'm shopping, I'll actually shop for trims because they're so unique and different in the fabric I put them on. The trim really makes the outfit. Now let's move down and let's make a jacket, because what is the jacket? It's simply a short sheath dress. So when I make the jacket and I cut it off, I've taken this, and again, this is a half scale. I've got the two pieces, and what I need to make a jacket is to add some type of buttonhole front or a zipper front. Both the buttonhole and the zipper are going to be the same amount. I've simply added that with the orange down the front of the sloper or the pattern. Here the buttons up the front, the color is just what really makes it beautiful. But notice I've also added room for a shoulder pad. And when I've added it for a shoulder pad, let's just take a look at this. You actually have to raise up the corner of the armhole, or the top of the armhole, the thickness of the shoulder pad, and then taper to nothing at the neckline, simply so that a shoulder pad will fit in. How much do you raise it up? You raise it up the thickness of the shoulder pad that you're going to use. So if it's a 1/2 inch shoulder pad, I'd raise that up a 1/2 inch in the front and a 1/2 inch in the back. 1 inch shoulder pad would be 1 inch in the front and 1 inch in the back. And that's all that you have to do, is simply change the shoulder pad and add the seam allowance down the front to make that now into a jacket. And of course, take the same amount of length off every single piece. And you can see what a difference this jacket is all the way from our little black sheath dress that we had in the beginning. If you turn the pages of any catalog, any fashion catalog that's current, you'll see the sheath dress repeatedly, over and over again. In college in 1970s, we were studying the sheath dress, and here, 2000 and something, we're still dealing with the sheath dress and the classic versatility that it has to offer every woman out there. It is by far her best look. And so learning to use it and make it look so versatile will save a lot of time in the patterns and have more fun at the sewing machine. In this case, you see, we've just added a little bling to it. And as you look through those fashion magazines, you can get lots of great ideas. You certainly don't have to come up with them yourself. This one, I've just added a zipper to the front and just a little bit of bling. On the end here, we have now, it's done out of a knit. I've taken away the shoulder pad. And because scarves are such a current trend, and they have been for many years, we'll add classic to classic. We'll throw a belt. If I decide to take this away, we can add jewelry to this. And again, just really transcends the look as well as how I feel when I'm wearing it. Keep in mind, and I think it's important to note, that when I do the fabric, if I do something loud and splashy, I may love it for a short time, and yet quickly I'll tire of it, as opposed to if I do a basic and can just change those accessories. So don't stay away from that bright, wild fabric. Just simply know that that garment probably won't be one of my favorites for a long period of time. Then for just a minute, I want to talk about the top I have on, because in the top I have on, we've added a collar. And in doing that, I've taken the sheath dress, I've shortened it. So my original sheath dress was here. I've made it a little bit shorter, as you can see. And then I've added a collar to it. And I've lowered the neckline. So I didn't even have to worry about how to make a collar or how to measure a collar. I just took the collar that I liked from the pattern that I wanted it to be, and I laid the neckline onto my sheath pattern and cut it away, knowing that then my new collar would fit my sheath. Another thing I wanted to show you was how to add some flair to the bottom, because our sheath dress, what makes it kind of a summery little print dress, is when we add fullness to the bottom. And so in this case, you can see again, there's my sheath. This is the back and the front. I've decided to add that fullness in each of my panels. The fullness represents the orange, and the blue, of course, is my classic. What I did is and this gray is a perfect example of it, I measured a dress that I liked how many inches were all around the bottom. And I came up with 60 inches. 60 inches was what I liked. When I went to my base sheath dress, 40 inches is what I had currently. So I knew I wanted to add 20 inches along the bottom. I decided how many places I wanted to add, and I added those up. And in this case, there was 6 places. I divided 6 into the 20 inches that I wanted to add and came up with how much I added on each piece. Now remember, these are half scale, so they're not going to be exactly what they are. And you can see that even though these are going to be 2 separate pieces, those little additions are just added in there, and I get that full flare at the bottom. And so it changes up my classic sheath into a little summer dress when made in a wonderful print. One pattern, classic pattern, lots of great looks, is the easiest way to sew.